All right, let's continue with some extended CSS cascading style sheets with this particular page that we're designing. Let's go back to the header. We have ballooning is awesome. It's text, it's paragraph styled. We could make it an H1, so let's go H1. We've got it fairly large. I just want to adjust that a little bit. I want to show you the padding top and bottom. So if this is the header over here to the right, this is our header again, top red div. Underneath is a nav bar. All of this area where the type exists is the main content area. That's where we're going to put a couple of images in later. And then down at the bottom we have a footer, and we'll align that vertical top. So let's do the top alignment first, okay? And so I'm going to go back up to the CSS, and we're going to go to the header because that's where the adjustment needs to take place. We have padding to the left, 20 pixels, padding to the right, 20 pixels. Since that's a total of 40 pixels linearly, horizontally, I had to subtract 40 from the width. Okay. The top is similar. The height of this is 124 pixels. So if I want to say padding top, padding dash top, I would say, let me say about 10 pixels. I think that will do it for me. Well, since I'm going to add 10 pixels to the padding at the top, I need to subtract 10 pixels from the height. As you can see, the height is 124. Let me make that 114. Now, did you see that adjust ever so much? Wasn't perfect. In fact, I think I want to make it a little more padding at the top. So I'm going to change that 10 to a 20. And I'm going to change the height. I'm going to subtract another 10 from the height. And it's getting pretty close. I'm going to leave it at that. You can certainly play with that, but I promise you the bigger the padding, you know, that sometimes those containers just get larger and larger. Oftentimes beginning designers don't realize they have to subtract from the height and the width if you add padding because it's just part of the math. Now, the div container. We're going to leave this simple, okay? We're not going to make this thing that beautiful. We don't have time, but we could put background textures, pictures. Some of you may fall in love with it and want to go farther. Let's look at this home. Home button right here, this tab in the nav bar. Let's make those temporary links for now. And then more about ballooning is going to be a second page. And Troy University is going to be an external link to Troy's webpage, and then contact me is where you're going to put an email link, so you'll see the difference. Let's do each of these. In fact, let's just do this in reverse order. And by the way, when we make these links, what's going to happen? They're going to by default turn to blue with an underscore. That may not look pretty on this gray background or whatever background color you got. If we have time, I may show you how to stylize links. But at this moment, let's just do this. I'm going to highlight the word contact me and make sure you do not catch, don't catch extra spaces before and after. You know, I don't want to slip over here. Otherwise, you can have an empty space and actually have a link to it, and that becomes a little bit awkward. So I'm going to go down to the property bar. I have that highlighted, contact me. This is how you make a link for an email address. What you do is you type in link here down at the bottom. I'm going to say mail to, no colon, but M-I-A-L-T-O colon, and I'm going to put my address, jjohnson@troy.edu. I'm going to hit enter, and you can see what happened in the code over here. It says it's putting this active link, this reference around the contact me. Here's contact me. It's putting this link, this anchor attribute before and then the close after. And it's saying href. Every time you see href, you know that that is a link. It is linking to, and it says quotation mark mail to jjohnson@troy.edu, and then the tag closes. Let's see what happens up here. Well, sure enough, contact me is now that famous blue with an underscore. As ugly as that is, let's leave that be. In fact, to save time, I think we're not going to stylize these. So I'm going to go back to my container here in a minute and make that background yellow, so at least these colors can contrast. Now, Troy University, let's make that a link. I'm selecting Troy University. I'm going to scroll down to my property bar, and my link here. By the way, when you put in URLs, web addresses, you can't just put www.troy.edu. You have to put the hypertext the transfer protocol, http://www.troy.edu. And since this is an external link, look closely down here. I want you to make sure you select target blank. Do you remember from the earlier video what that does? It actually makes, when somebody clicks on troy.edu, that link, it'll opens up a new browser window. Not a new tab, but a new window. And that way you don't really leave your website. So let's zoom back out and kind of see what's going on here. Troy University is now a link, and when we preview all of this, it shall work. Now this, more about ballooning, we haven't created a second page yet, but we could do that. I'm going to say more about ballooning, and let's go down here. We haven't created that page yet, so what I'm going to do is put in the hashtag down in where it says link. What that does is kind of a placeholder. It makes it a link, but it's not going anywhere. It's just going to stay on the same page. Eventually, when we create that second page, in fact, I'm going to go ahead and, no, let's leave it that way, just pound, because I wanted to target here because I don't want to leave the website. I want to come back to home. All right, hit enter, and it's putting the code around there. So that is now a link to nothing right now, but it's a link. And the word home is this page. It's index. Remember, every home page is called index. If you go to disney.com, it's /index. You don't have to type the word index. You just don't say home page, main page. You call it what you want, but you don't name it anything but index. I'm going to call this one index.html. Perfect. Hit enter. Now we've got all of these links up here. And as I said before, I don't like that blue on that gray background, so I'm going to go to my nav bar, my CSS, and change the color of that background. That background color was set to 666. Well, I need to change that anyway, don't I? That was scary. So let me get a light color. I'm just getting a pale yellow over here. Fine. Now that will contrast just fine. All right, yours should be looking something like this, except with your content, your words, okay? Your links will be just like this, except your more about ballooning will be more about your particular subject, okay? Now let's go down to the footer, and we're going to adjust the top margin on this as well as the size of the type. Let's say, for example, I want this to align center because it's a footer. By the way, these links, they're going to be links as well, but they're going to be smaller. Well, let's do this. Let's go back up to our CSS in the footer. We're stylizing everything in the div that it is located in. So that's the footer. This is what we do. Now, I told the text already to be 8 pixels. Okay? I'm going to do, right after that, I'm going to say text dash align. If I can spell it right. This is, you wouldn't know this, but we're going to say center. You get a prompt here. I'm going to double click on it and say center and close, okay? So that's going to make that center down, that footer actually centered. You can see that happen almost immediately. There it did, okay? It's still a little bigger than I want, and it's still positioned kind of funny. So let me go back to the stylization. I'm going to put padding on the top. I think I've already, well, no, I didn't. I didn't put any padding on the top, so let me do this. In the footer, let's put padding top. I'm not worried about the bottom. Sometimes you do have to, but padding dash top, and let's say 20 pixels. And that's going to push that down, but it's also making it taller, right? So I'm going to take 20 pixels off my height. It's currently 85 pixels in the footer. That makes it 65, correct? Okay. Click on the right side, and we should see these changes manifest right before our eyes. Sure enough, that's not bad. I don't like this big double space down here, and I want to say website by Jerry Johnson, maybe even make that smaller or just something a little bit different, maybe change the color. But let's just do this. Instead of that being a paragraph break, maybe it'd look better if that was just a line break. Do you remember how we do a line break? Let me see if I can highlight this and go into the, not to the CSS, but let's look over here. At the very bottom, in my source code, it says home, more about ballooning, Troy, contact me, paragraph break. How about instead of that we do BR, line break, okay? Now notice in HTML5 it puts this automatic BR space /. That's kind of, it's just a close. It's a close tag, open and close all together. Well, let's see. That's much better, isn't it? All right. Well, let's leave this section as it is and look at this just for a moment. And it's looking pretty organized, to tell you what. That background is white or a very light gray. I want to change the background to a little bit more of a color. So that's the background of the body, remember? The background of the body. So that background is white. So let me delete this. I'll hit my space bar after the colon and give me some other options. And let me go to kind of a medium gray. There, it really pops, okay? Let's see, we've got a little space right here. What is going on? Maybe I don't have my nav bar sizes right because I got a little gap between here. I'll repair that before the next video. But we've got one more to go, okay? I'm going to show you how to create a new page and link to it. And I think we're going to be pretty close to wrapping this up. And I look forward to seeing your work. All right, see you in the next video.